Hold on, there's other games outside of America?
Outside of America, yeah.
I'm shocked.
You're listening to the Beans and Dice Podcast, a podcast about how we game.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the Beans and Dice Podcast. I'm Carlos Rafael.
I'm Rob Childers.
Michael Lorenzo.
Daniel Erdzik.
And we're joined here today with Dan and Michael, and Rob and I are all here at Your Turn, a gaming cafe in Zephyrhills, Florida.
Correct.
Dan's Gaming Cafe. We want to thank you, Dan, for hosting us today.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you coming out here. It's nice doing something like this here instead of just looking at an empty building during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Man, what a tough time to set up and open.
Yeah.
We decided to open before the lockdown occurred, but, you know, we just have really bad timing.
Yeah, it was like, I think the week before the lockdown occurred.
That's when we set our opening, but we saw it coming, and we decided not to fully open at that time.
We were really saddened. We were so excited to get out here. I think we were all here that week when it opened up and got to enjoy the facilities, and you hosted us for kind of a preview as well.
Yes.
And then we all went to our homes and hid for 2 months.
Yeah, about that.
I was in here in a nice empty building. I had everything set up and ready to go, but, you know, what can you do? You just go with it.
Right, and go with the flow, and that you have, and now things have gotten better. You're getting opened up, and you've invited us out. I'm glad you have, because I have been here a few times now since we've reopened, and have enjoyed every minute. Also with us in person this time, Michael, who's been running our audio and video live streaming from his bunker.
Yeah.
So he's actually with us in person this time. So Michael, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
I know Rob and I have had opportunities to game with our families. We talked about that last time.
Yep.
Rob and I have been gaming together, but we haven't had an opportunity to game with Michael yet. So
In person.
In
True.
Yeah, it's been a
person.
while. Yeah. Yep.
We did the TTS stuff online.
True.
Yep.
Dan was with us. We did the entire Thunder Alley League with Dan, also known as Chaos.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true.
Mr. Chaos.
Of all the people sitting at this table, I placed the highest, yes.
Yeah. Well, he did. Out of this, well, we had 7 players playing. It was 7 weeks, and Muhammad was the champion by kind of a landslide. So, but looking forward to doing it again. We're gonna have a rematch about that. So, yeah.
Yes. And you can see behind us just a portion, and you'll see a portion of that library behind us, a beautiful gaming library that you have here.
How many
at
games
Your
now?
Turn.
A little over 1,200 now.
1,200 games.
Good gravy.
Color-coded.
Yep.
Color-coded by difficulty, alphabetical order.
That's a lot of work.
Sleeving it was a lot of work. Putting them in alphabetical order was not.
I think
Wow.
all of us here came in and donated time to
Yep.
sleeve games.
Yes.
Yep.
About 140,000 sleeves total.
Wow. Incredible.
I had a blast.
It was
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I brought the family, had the kids, put the kids to work.
Gotta earn that keep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, your kids are solely responsible for the entire Dark Souls collection.
There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they sleeved it all. That was all
That's
your
us.
kids.
Wow.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
I stayed in the GMT world,
Oh, big surprise there.
the
yeah.
wargaming world.
Right in the pocket for you.
Yeah.
So that worked out well. Well, you know, before we get into our hot topic, as people jump into the live stream to watch, let's take a little bit of time to talk about what we've been playing or any achievements that we've had. What we've been playing and achievements that we've had over the last week or so.
Okay.
So, Rob, you want to start us off on that end?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mentioned in the last cast that I had gotten my oldest son to start playing the Imperial Settlers roll and write, and so we've played a couple games now in that series. What we've done is there's what they call the adventure mode, which is really the solo mode. But we took those adventure sheets and laminated them, and what we've started doing is we're going to do a series. We haven't gotten through the first series of 5, but we're taking 5 of them, and then he's playing on kind of his time, I'm playing on my time, and we're each going to play through each of those 5 and then total up our scores. And what we've decided to do is we're going to give each other a point. Once we have done like Adventure 1, we'll compare the scores. Whoever got the highest gets a point, and then once we've gotten to the end of the 5, we're going to total up our scores for those 5 games, and whoever had the highest total over the 5 games will get a bonus 2 points. And so just a kind of a little fun thing we're doing. I've seen some different variations online of different ways people are taking that solo mode and making it a multiplayer kind of thing. So this was a little bit of our own twist. I didn't see anything quite exactly like that, but this was something fun we wanted to try. So we're about halfway through that, and it's been fun. I'm liking that game. It is challenging, and it's going to be a little luck-based. There's definitely rolling of dice, and so between his play and my play, it's going to be a little different just depending on how we did that. But I think putting it over 5 games, kind of spreading that out, hopefully will balance that some. Other than that, I have played a little bit on TTS. Played a couple different games on there. Again, we mentioned we just finished up the Thunder Alley League. I think we touched on that last time, but that's a blast. I know some of the guys from the group are definitely pushing to start another season of that, so we'll probably start pretty soon. But again, I'm still a little bit in the cooling mode of that, just trying to don't want to burn out on playing too many games of that too quick. I think we mentioned we played our 7 games in about 4 weeks. I think we had planned to do it 7 weeks, once a week, but once we started, people were really into it, so we doubled up on a couple of weeks and did that.
Nice.
I played one game of Through the Ages, one more game since our last cast of Through the Ages online.
Right.
And I'm finding I really like that app. I like that Steam app for that game. And it's definitely one I mentioned before that it is a little complicated. You got to learn the game. You got to learn the cards. But as I'm playing that one more, I'm finding that more enjoyable. That's been most of what I played. One little thing I did, I think I might have mentioned in the last cast, is back to Imperial Settlers, the main regular, not the roll and write version, but the Imperial Settlers game. I just put in my order for, they did announce in July they'll be releasing the campaign mode for that, and so I'm very excited about that. I've mentioned before that Imperial Settlers is one of my favorite games, probably definitely a top 10, maybe a top 5, kind of right there on the border of that. But I'm really looking forward to that campaign mode. I saw the little promo video, the 2-minute video they put about it, and really excited for that. So I know Mike actually got in a couple things from Portal Games also, so we combined an order and put one in together. So I imagine they'll hold that until the expansion comes out or the campaign game comes out in early July. But we're definitely looking forward to getting that in. But I think that's most of what I've been up to.
Cool.
Dan, what you been up to gaming-wise, geeky-wise?
Well, I don't know about a whole lot of gaming. One of the things I learned that people told me, if you're going to open a board game cafe or a game store and you really like gaming, don't, because you're not going to get a lot of game time in when you're running a business.
Oh, yeah.
That's sad.
I can imagine.
Most of my time is dedicated to that, but I've had a couple of private parties here already, and that allowed me to teach people games, which is a lot of fun. Lots of people wanted to learn Wingspan, Azul. A couple groups wanted to play Secret Hitler. Had a lot of fun with that. We just got a prototype in for a coming Kickstarter from, I believe the company is called Le Badajou. It's the same company that does It's a Wonderful World. So we're working through that right now, getting ready to produce a Kickstarter video for that. So that's exciting. And we just got our first playthrough of that in today.
Cool.
So
Nice. That's right. You and Michael got to play that.
yes, we got to do the 2-player version. We want to get at least a 3 and a 4-player count in there to see how it plays at those different levels. But after we got through the rules and figured out how it was played, it became a lot more enjoyable, and you can actually see all the levels of strategy within the game and how there's so many different paths that you can take to victory, that somebody may block you over here, but you have something else you can do, and it's really dynamic the way that the different levels in the game change as far as which area you're controlling at that time.
That is one I'm looking forward to getting into. I know you had offered that playtesting with me.
Absolutely.
So I actually got to poke around the box a little bit and see that it's pretty well produced, pretty well finished. That's part of what you played, Mike. So share along. What else have you been up to geek-wise?
Geek-wise, so last night I finally got my wife to try point salad.
Ah, cool.
And
nice.
She pretty much wiped the floor with us in the first game. And my wife is pretty funny because she doesn't, after a long day of work, she typically doesn't want anything brain burner, or she just wants a nice, easy game to kind of pick up. So like ancient artifacts is one of her favorites. Yeah. It's pretty much a roll and write, pretty easy. But with the point salad, like I said, she pretty much wiped the floor with us the first game. But the funny thing with her is she'll play King of Tokyo as well.
Oh, yeah.
And every time that she wins, it's like, oh my gosh, you won. And she's like, I don't even know what I did. You know, it's kind of like one of those.
Well, I was going to say point salad. I've seemed to see a trend in that. It seems like that when I played that with different groups of people, it seems like the new people seem to win that game, and I seem to get worse and worse at it as I play. And I think you start overthinking that game. It really is so simple, and if you just kind of do the natural things and go with it, then you seem to do really well. But once you think you start figuring out a strategy and you start trying to play for something,
Nope.
Yep, it's over. So
So we played that last night, and then my oldest son Matthew, we finally got to the table. The two of us have decided it's going to be a weekly thing. We got Gloomhaven to the table.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Technically, it's the second time I played. The first time we had like a veteran player
Oh, cool.
kind of play with us and teach us everything, but it was, unfortunately, it was so many months ago.
Oh, you forget a lot.
I just forgot so much, so it took us literally...
There's a lot to forget in that game.
There is.
It is,
There's a
yeah.
lot.
And I think it took us 3.5, almost 4 hours, kind of starting from scratch. Had a couple of the helper apps, but it was just a lot of confusion and a lot of looking up rules and making sure that we were trying to do everything proper.
Yeah.
And the whole time I kept thinking, if only Rob was here.
Yeah. Well, again, invite me next time. And
Because I know you're a veteran.
Yeah, I don't want to step in on your time, but actually that reminds me that my Gloomhaven group finally got together Tuesday night, just a couple of nights ago, for our first game back in about 3 months. But we were playing every week, and we've been playing. We determined, I think I mentioned this in a cast a while back, that we've only got a handful of scenarios left. So we've got lots of hours in that game, probably well over 40, maybe 50, 60 hours in.
That's awesome.
And we've got maybe 5 or 6 scenarios left before we go to the first expansion, the Forgotten Circles. So that'll be, we're looking forward to busting into that and starting that up. But,
right. You got to burn through it before Frosthaven comes out.
But next time you're playing, if you need a tutor, let me know. I'm happy to come and teach that game. That's definitely a great game.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's really all the gaming I've been doing this past week. So, Carlos, what about you?
Carlos, yeah.
Not a lot of gaming. I can't say I've done any real gaming. I've done some assembly of some Blood Bowl models, but I've done, I guess, gaming adjacent-ish, the Kickstarter thing, right? So I'm getting to feel a little bit of what it's like to be a part of a Kickstarter.
What did I miss here?
Well, so
you didn't hear?
Nick Oben went in on
Who's in the chat, by the way?
Oh, he's in the chat. All right, cool.
Hey, Nick.
Hey, Nick. Nick Oben went in on the Tiny Epic Pirates Kickstarter, and I'm a Tiny Epic fan. I'm a fanboy, Tiny Epic. So when he said, hey, by the way, there's this 2-pack in here. Do you want to jump in on that? And I said, sure, man, just tell me how much, and I'll send you some money. And he's like, okay, so what I didn't expect was that he would begin sending me, forwarding all the updates, and then kind of how that yes, it starts to hook you.
Reel you in.
It starts to reel you in because, the first one he sends is like, hey, listen, if they get to this level, we'll be able to get gold coins. And if we get to this level, we're going to get custom dice.
Man,
You're hooked.
He's been bitten by the bug already.
It's done.
So then you start checking the website, and you're. I didn't realize that total moves up and down like in real time, the dollar amount.
Because sometimes people are pulling that they're
Pledges.
pulling back.
I'm watching it go down, like no, and then I'm watching. It's like a stock market.
Like a stock
ride.
market, I was going to say, yeah.
It's like a stock market ride. I've never done this before, but so it kind of adjacent. I'm in the Kickstarter adjacent world because I'm officially not doing a Kickstarter.
Your name's not on it, yeah.
But I'm in a Kickstarter, so that's what I've been up to this past week. Is enjoying that
That's
ride.
exciting, man.
Yeah.
And finally, my iron clays have finally shipped.
Yes.
So I got my notification that my iron clays have shipped, and I'm so excited. This is the reason I can't do Kickstarters, because it originally said it would fulfill on May 29th.
Oh, yeah.
And every day since May 29th, I've been going back to my order online and looking to see why hasn't it fulfilled yet? Why hasn't it fulfilled yet? It's the 1st of June.
Nature of the beast, man.
And the iron clays, just for people who don't know, we did talk about it in a cast a while back, but they are, I'm sure, and Michael already has them, so he can probably describe them much better, but they are basically poker chips that you substitute into games for money or for points or something like that. So
It's like a weighted, it's a high quality, almost like a casino quality chip, but just the material that it's made out of, and they're called iron clays because they actually have iron in the middle of them to give them their weight. But the texture, and they do come in all denominations, but they actually make a couple of denominations that are common for board games, which I went in on. I know Dan has some.
Yes.
A couple other people in the group, I believe, has some, like Lonnie. But I know you've been waiting on these, and
They just look so beautiful. That wash that they
Yeah.
put on it, it just makes it stand out. I just want to use them. I can't wait to use them. So I'm excited about that. It says it'll be here Sunday.
nice.
So
exciting.
I ordered 2 100 packs. So I figure that should be enough for most of my board gaming need
Yeah.
For now.
For now.
For now.
for now.
For now. Yeah, you'll get more.
Well, that's our achievements or our what we've been up to gaming wise.
You're listening to the Beans and Dice Podcast, a podcast about how we game.
Hey, welcome back to the Beans and Dice Podcast, a podcast about how we game. And now we're going to talk about our main topic, which is The Crew, the quest for Planet 9. It's a cooperative trick-taking game for 3 to 5 players. There is a 2-player variant included in the rule set. I'm going to give you the back-of-the-box information. It is from Cosmos Games, and it plays, again, 3 to 5 players. The ages are 10 and up, and playtime is about 20 minutes per session. But I believe there are 50 missions in this game itself.
Right.
So the designer is Thomas Sling, and illustrated by Marco Armbuster, put out by Cosmos Games. Rob, how does the game play?
Okay, yeah, gameplay is a trick-taking game, and as Carlos mentioned, it is cooperative, and so let me say that again, a cooperative trick-taking game, and that is one of the big twists on this game, is people who are familiar with your classic trick-takers, spades, hearts, even cribbage and games along that line, you're usually very competitive. Everybody's trying to get points by winning tricks. In some games, you're estimating the number of tricks you think you're going to win ahead of time for certain amounts of points. But this game is completely cooperative. I'm sure there's others out there, but it's the first cooperative trick-taking game I've ever played. I grew up playing spades and hearts and those types of games, but this one really has blown me away. And we'll talk in a minute probably about our opinions. We'll go down and talk about our experiences with the game and what we think. But as far as playing the game, again, if you're familiar with trick-taking, there are 4 suits in this game. There's 4 different colors, blue, green, pink, and what am I
Yellow.
missing? Yellow, that's it, yellow. So those 4 colors. And then there is a trump suit of those colored suits. Of those first 4 colors, there are the numbers 1 through 9 of each one, and then the trump, which is the card that can basically beat any other card. There's just 4 of those trump cards, a 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it is like a standard trick-taking game, like most American trick-taking games, as Carlos has educated me, that there are other games outside of America where you can throw off suit. Which
Hold on,
just,
there's other games outside of America?
outside of America, yeah.
I'm shocked.
that you can throw off suit, and that was that really blew me away because I never had played a game where you could just choose to throw away anything you want. Usually trick-taking games, if somebody plays a yellow card and you have a yellow card, you have to play your yellow card. Which is the way it is in the crew. So you have a commander that's determined each round by the person who, after you deal out all the cards in the deck. The commander is the person who has the highest trump card, the 4 of rockets. It's the trump suit is rockets, and so whoever has that takes a little commander token and places it in front of them. As Carlos mentioned as well, there are 50 different missions in the game, and they recommend you play them in order. You don't have to. You can just randomly choose a mission if you're interested in one particular type of mission.
They kind of build off of each other from the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
If you play them in order, they get more complex as you go. They teach you some basic mechanics of how they're going to use the game and how they're going to have you win the tricks throughout the game, and they kind of build on each other and get more and more complex. So I played it a few times, and we've gotten to level 5 or 6, I think, is as far as we've gotten so far. But there are 50, and so the goal in kind of a campaign type game would be to play through all 50 missions. But it starts out very simple. There's a full-size deck of cards in the game, and then there is a mini deck of cards. And a lot of the missions in the game are based off of dealing a card off of the mini deck. The mini deck is identical to the larger deck, except for the mini deck doesn't have any of the rockets, the trump cards, that would win tricks. And so let's say, for example, we shuffle up the little cards, we deal it out, and it's a pink 5. Well, what happens is the person who is the commander, the person who drew the 4 trump card, then would be required to take that card in front of them. And the whole mission or the whole goal of playing through that round is it's won automatically once you complete the mission. And the mission would be that the commander would then have to win that pink 5 at some course during that round. And so you play, and everybody's trying to help. Again, it's completely cooperative, so communication is very limited. I'll touch on that in just a second, but everybody's trying to get the commander to win that card. As you play through other missions, things build. There'll be multiple tricks that people have to win, so everybody may have to draw a card at some point, and they all have to win that one trick that contains that card. It gets into things like doing things in order. There are some cards where it's going to tell you you're going to place the first card you flip up. It has a 1. The second card has a 2. And so those get divvied out, and then the person who has the card that was the 1 has to win that trick before the person who gets the card that was a 2. Right. The other unique thing about the game, without getting into too much more into the details of the gameplay, is the communication, which is very, very unique. And again, that's another big hook for this game, is that you are allowed to, the only way you're allowed to communicate anything about your hand is that at some point in between tricks during the game, or at the beginning before you even start playing tricks and winning tricks, you can take one card from your hand and place it face up on the table. You then have a little marker, and if you place the marker in the middle of the card, you're telling everyone who's playing the game with you that that is the only card of that suit or of that color that you have in your hand. If you place the marker at the top edge of the card, you're telling everyone that that is the highest of that color that you have, and the bottom, you're telling them it's the lowest. So communicating information, again, if you put it at the top or the bottom, you're letting people know that you have multiple cards of that color, and that also, again, that is your highest or your lowest, so you're communicating that out. You can only do that one time throughout the round, so as you play through that hand of cards, once you've played that and communicated that, you flip the little marker over once you've actually played that card, because it is still part of your hand, so you have to play it at some point. But once it's been played into the game, you flip the little marker over to a red side, which just indicates to everybody that you've communicated and you can't do that again. But anybody who's played trick-taking games, you know that there are different levels, if you've played very many, of trick-takers. And people who know that game and know how to play trick-taking games, you really almost like, I know we've compared it before to the mind. It's almost like you start a communication brainwave, even though you can't talk to the other people at the table. You kind of start learning because they played this card, I know that they've got that card, unless they just screwed up. And if they screwed up, then we're going downhill and we're going to redeal it and start over. But really, really unique. So, and we'll talk a little bit more again about our impressions. But
Yep. Now we're going to talk about our impressions of The Crew, The Quest for Planet 9. So, Michael, you got to play that today for the first time.
That was my first time playing.
We've been hyping it for you for a long time.
Well, I mean, everybody's been really hyping it when you consider all the reviews that have been raving about it and claiming Game of the Year, and you know, it technically came out last year. It was in Germany, and they finally did a English conversion for us in the States, and we definitely are appreciating that. So today was my first time playing. Kind of familiar with trick-taking games. I've played Briska.
Yep.
You taught us that a number of months ago.
Right here.
Yep, right here actually. And
while,
I've played
while eating pierogies. That was a very international day.
Yeah, that's true. Fox in the Forest I've played, and maybe a couple other ones that I can't recall right now. But again, like Rob said earlier, was it's just unique because it's a co-op, which is, and it is kind of like the mind, because you're trying to communicate with your eyes, and even though you have that one communication card that's in front of you at times, it's I think what grasped my attention when I started playing it was rounds can be very fast. Even when you're thinking about your next move, the rounds are very quick. And when you said 20 minutes per session, I was like, no, I could see sitting there for a couple of hours easily trying to get through the next mission, because you're like, if you failed a mission, you're kind of like, all right, let's try it again. And then when you get it, you're like, all right, well, let's see what the next mission will, because once you hit, what was it, mission 5?
5 was, unique.
That's where it takes this turn on you, because everything is kind of straightforward because it's explaining the different types of things.
The first 4 missions are like training missions.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then when you get to that number 5, it's like, whoa, okay, so you really can do some weird stuff in this game.
Do something a little different.
Yeah, and then I think we only got to 6 tonight.
6, yeah.
And I think I might have played it for 45 minutes tonight, because we had to start getting ready for the live cast, but I could easily see myself sitting there for a couple of hours, 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I probably wouldn't want to put it away, because I'm like a completionist. I feel like I need to keep going until I know I wouldn't be able to do it in one sitting. But
so when the cameras are off.
It's still early. The night is still
Oh,
young.
yeah, we're
we can
going to dive into
all right.
that.
I'm all for that. Yeah.
Absolutely. But so anyway, yeah. So with a little bit of trick-taking experience on my end, definitely a game that I'm ready to jump back in and get it to the table right away, actually.
Sweet.
Dan, it was your first impressions of it tonight, because you got to play it a few times.
I got to go through a few of the missions. I didn't get to the fabled mission 5 to see what the twist is quite yet.
Hyping it up.
I'm hoping to get to that after we're done. So maybe I'll get to experience the excitement of mission 5 and find out what's going on. But my impressions, my experience with trick-taking games is playing spades and hearts and things like that during my military career on deployments. And we need to work a little bit on some of our trick-taking skills at the table.
Oh, wow.
Because there's some rookie...
The newbie is calling us
There's
out.
some rookie players here when it comes to trick-taking games, but I don't know about this one in particular, but we'll work on our communication. That eye-to-eye contact you were talking about, we'll get that down.
Dan will propel us to levels that
Yeah,
we've never seen
we're going
before.
to get past 6 tonight, guaranteed.
Okay. All right.
He's our new commander.
He said it.
I'm ready.
Space Force. Let's do this. Maybe. I have grown up like Rob and like many of you playing trick-taking games. Mine are more Spanish in nature. Briscas is the game that I grew up playing.
Not American trick-taking games?
No. Did you know, Rob, there are games that outside of America.
Yeah, I've heard.
You can throw off suit too during
wow.
those. They're really cool.
And you play to the right of the dealer.
Oh, that's right.
It's counterclockwise.
Yep.
So it kind of throws everything off.
Yes, it does.
But what's great about playing, growing up playing Briscas is watching my grandmother, 89 years old, play to this day Briscas, games that she's been playing since she was a kid. And with time, you get to the point where you know what other people have based on what you have and what they're playing. And she can tell you what you're going to play before you know what you're going to play. And she'll put a card out right on the table. And before anyone even does anything, someone plays one card. She'll put her card on the table.
Covered.
Yep, covered. And then when it gets to her turn, she'll flip it.
Just flip it.
And boom, because she knew what you were going to play and what you were going to play based on what's been played.
Yep.
And I've always admired that about my grandmother when I play with her. And what the crew does for me is it gets back those nostalgic feelings of playing Brisca. Where I struggle with it is getting away from the I need to win every trick component. Like when I look at my hand, I'm like, okay, how can I win all these? But there was a mission that we did today. We did the mission where one player could not win any tricks, and that player was me. So that was a very strange feeling to try to lose every trick. But we did well on that one. We lost a lot, and for me, I lost a lot, and I guess that was good for the team.
Yeah, that was the plan.
I like that twist. I like that twist of there's an objective. For example, Robert might have the 6 blue. He has to win the 6 blue. Michael has to win the 4 yellow. and then I have to win the 5 blue in that order.
Sometimes in that order, yeah.
In that order.
Right.
And you're looking at your hand thinking, there's no way we're going to do this. And then your brain starts thinking, okay, well, but maybe if we play this and then play that, and then you kind of follow these paths down.
Right. Right.
Well, this could happen. Let's try it.
Yeah.
And somebody screws up, and
Yes.
it's all for naught.
And then there's even some theme behind it. So, like you said, the one round where you had to lose
Yes.
every hand.
This is the narrative, the story.
right.
Oh,
the
yeah, there's a
story,
story,
is
yeah.
that one of the crew members is sick,
Yep.
and after all the cards are dealt out.
Yeah, we're not spoiling anything because this is the first
Right,
page
these are
of the rules.
first few,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the captain has to listen. Everybody looks at their hand, and whoever the captain is, he's listening to the other players, and they have to determine. They have to say whether they're in good health or in bad health, depending on, and that's supposed to give the information of how many, if they think that they can lose every hand, or if they're going to win some or every hand, and then the captain determines at that point. So you
Yep.
were the one that didn't feel so well.
Well,
and-
it's tough because everyone else says, hey, I feel good, I feel good, I feel good. And you're like, ooh, I guess I have to feel bad because
Right.
Somebody's
Somebody's
got to be bad.
right.
somebody's got to be sick in this mission. And
Yeah.
I guess I can lose with this.
Yeah.
And it worked out well.
Yeah.
And it felt like we were just clicking, like our minds were clicking together.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you have a good teammate in a game of spades or something and you guys are just, you're on the same page, same wavelength. That's what the crew allows me to feel. What I also like about this game is the mechanism is not difficult.
Yeah.
Right? The mechanism of the game is not hard. It's the challenges that the task that it gives you that's hard. So it's always great when you have a game that's it itself is not hard to figure out how to play, but the challenge is the puzzle itself. So
Right.
the rules just kind of fall away and you hit that flow where you're just playing the game and you're not thinking about rules.
Right, you're not even thinking
You're
about
not
it.
even going into the rule book or the FAQ. The crew does that stellarly, just great.
And I'll comment on that later, but Rob, were you done? I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Rob.
Well, I'll just jump in a little bit. I'm going to move a little bit towards my opinion, but also as the nominations that this game has. I know Michael mentioned that there's already buzz for Game of the Year here in the States. This is up for, I believe it's the Kinderspiel, which is Germany's Gamers Game of the Year. And
Right.
since it did come out in Germany at the very end of 2019, it is up for the they're getting ready to do the voting, or doing the voting now, I think, for the Kinderspiel for the 2019 Game of the Year. And there's a couple different categories for those of you that aren't familiar. The Kinderspiel, I believe, is the kind of the gamer's game. It actually usually tends to be a little bit more complex a game. They have a category for kids, and they have a category for family weight games. And if I remember correctly, this is up for Game of the Year in the gamers' games, which surprised a lot of people because they feel a card game maybe doesn't belong in games with euros and games that take hours to play. But I'll tell you that it is difficult for me to say that a trick-taking game could possibly win Game of the Year. But I think I'm starting to get on board. I've played 3 sessions now. I played once for about 2 hours, and we made it through. We beat Mission 5, and we stopped. I played it once for about an hour, and we got to Mission 5 and didn't beat it, and we stopped. And then tonight we played, for 45 minutes. We got to Mission
6.
We got to Mission 6, and then
Yeah.
we lost Mission 6 on our first run. And the more I'm playing this game, I mean, this takes, trick-taking games have been around forever, hundreds of years. And it's just, this takes an old, tried and true game type and really just turns it on its head. Number one, making it cooperative. Again, I'm sure there's other cooperative trick-taking games out there in the past. I haven't played any. Again, I played a lot of the classics, spades and hearts, and that you can just play with a regular deck of cards. I know a lot of them have come out since then. But being cooperative is really interesting. It's really neat. I'm used to competitive trick-taking. And then just those missions, the little twists that they put in there. And again, Mission 5 is the one we've been kind of alluding to with the are you feeling good? Are you feeling bad? The first time we read that scenario after we had done the starter missions, which are just take this trick, you have to take that one, you have to take that one. And then when they twisted it, and I'm like, man, that is interesting. What else are they going to do? We're on Mission 5,
Right.
and there's 50 missions in this book. What other little twists are they going to throw in there that's going to make this game new and fresh? And I have, again, the hype train, people who have put tens and maybe even 100 hours into this game have talked about it being one of their favorite games of all time. Matthew Jude, a famous game caster who's on Dice Tower, and This Game is Broken, and some other podcasts, and he has said that this may be his all-time favorite game, which is, for anybody who's been a hobby board gamer for a while, to call a trick-taking game, a card game, their favorite game of all time is impressive. And so I'm not to that point yet. I am as has been announced before, I'm an analytical gamer. I'm a thinker. I'm not so much into theme and story. You tell me how to play the game and how to win, and I'm competitive. I'm going to try to play to win. But this really is this has really got my attention, and I'm really looking forward to getting past mission 6
tonight.
Yeah, there we go.
We have Dan on our side,
mission
so we're
10,
going to make
mission
it.
20. I'm all on board. I want to find out what's going to happen in this thing. So I'm in. Yeah,
Good.
Awesome.
Yep.
I'm resounding 2 thumbs up from me on this game. It hits on so many levels: nostalgia, ease of play, difficulty to master.
Yep.
And just a comment on the ease of play, the way that they introduce the missions, it's very simple. One person has to win this trick,
Yep.
with this card, and then it builds off of that. Okay, now we have to get 2 people to win off of these cards, and then it's just this very simple. It's almost like, they even call it in the book, they're training missions.
Yep.
So it's really introducing you. Okay, over a course of a couple of missions or a few missions, and then it's like, boom, it just kind of takes off. And
Yeah, once you got the concepts down, it really starts getting your curiosity. So
yeah. So it's definitely high up on my list already.
As far as game of the year, you were saying how, it's odd that a trick-taking game or a card game would be considered for that. But something also needs to be said for just not simplicity of rules, but accessibility, getting past the gatekeepers and stop worrying about things having 5,000 moving parts and all these crazy components and things. Just having a game that you can teach somebody in a few minutes to get down, get playing, and get that hooked into it.
Right.
That goes a long way compared to something that may take hours and hours for you to learn. Yes, those have their place, but having these gateway games to get people interested into the hobby, I think, are just as important as having a super intricate game out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to chime in on that and say, that's we always talk about as hobby gamers. We always talk about how can we bring more people in. What kind of interesting things we can do. And this again takes so many people have played some degree of trick-taking games at some point in their life. And this really just, I think it can really bridge that gap. It can take people who have played a little bit of trick-taking. It starts introducing more complex concepts. It starts analytical thinking, order of operations, working cooperatively with other people. And that leap that once somebody gets, even if it's only 10 missions into this game, but then maybe introducing them to that next step game, a second level of introducing people to what board games are all about. I think this really is maybe where the appeal of this game is, and maybe that's why we're talking about Game of the Year.
Yeah. And just to expand on that a little bit also, and also touching on what Dan kind of commented on, is, again, it's not a huge game. You can throw it in your bag.
Yep.
It's a game that you can take to work with you and play during lunch. You can get a couple of rounds in during lunch, and it's also a type of game that you can break it out at night, and you can literally sit there. I could just see myself doing this, sit there 2-3 hours and still not be bored with it. So you have this wide range of time frame that you can actually fit it into.
Yep.
So
and it's easy to explain to a newer player.
yes,
because many families have had hearts or spades or something like a trick-taking game in their repertoire.
yep, absolutely.
And one of the things that we are trying to do here at the cafe is get people interested in games that normally are not interested in games. One of the biggest barriers is someone comes in, you got a new player, you may have 3 or 4 experienced players around that table, but that player that's new, trying to sit there and listen to rules for 30 minutes or an hour.
Right.
I mean, Mike has met my wife. If you don't get the rules done and the game started in 3 to 5 minutes, you've lost her. And it's a game like this that you got that 3 to 5 minutes and you can get going.
Absolutely.
But that's a very good point. I've been here a few times now, and I've noticed when groups come in here, I mentioned this, one of the things that I first noticed is Uno is the first thing that hits the table. Right, I watch them explore and watch and check your library out for 30 minutes, and then they sit down. But what they sit down with is Uno, because what they want to do is get gaming.
Yeah, we've noticed that a lot too. These first couple of shelves we have here, you can't see them in the shop, but it's the old family games. Your Guess Who, your Chutes and Ladders,
Life.
your Candyland,
I've seen Life play
Yahtzee, things like that. That's exactly what happens. People walk around. They may even take a few of these games off the shelf that they're not familiar with. They'll open it and they'll see the rule book and go, I need to close this box. And I'm going to go over here and grab Battleship and we're going to get going.
Right.
Those games, there's a lot to be said for those games. People that keep pushing them off. And when I was going through my spreadsheet of the games for my library, keeping track of everything, I would go to Board Game Geek to get the information. And it shocked me that like a game like Battleship, it'll have a score of like 3 because people just say, oh, it's too simple. Well, that's the point. It's supposed to be simple to get people in and get them playing and having fun. So I think a game like this really highlights that simplicity and getting people having a good time right away. And then they can work their way through the mid-range and the larger games later on.
Absolutely.
There is a place.
No, that's what you want to do is get that curiosity up. Hopefully you get those repeat customers that come in. They start with what they're familiar with, and then you can slowly introduce them to some other games that they might be interested in. Because if you can only play Life or Monopoly so many times, and then you're looking for the kind of that next step, I think that's what we all hope for as hobby gamers in bringing more and more people into the hobby. And so
we have to expand this hobby.
Absolutely.
If we want it to be here for us.
Yep.
Agreed.
Well, fellas, thank you for joining me today as we discuss the crew and what we've been up to.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks again, Dan. Yeah.
Thank you for hosting.
Us here at your
Thank
turn.
you.
A board
Coffee
game
was
cafe.
great.
Yep.
You want to tell us your hours and such? And
where can we get more
how can we
information
get
about
more
what you
info?
got going on?
Sure, you can go to our website. You can just do a Google search for Your Turn Cafe. You'll find us. We're in Zephyrhills. Our hours are Monday, noon to 10 p.m. Tuesday is 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Wednesday, we're doing reservations only. That's a day that we want adults to come in. Nobody younger than the age of 18 will be in the cafe at that time. So that's the one day a week that adults can come in and play games. Maybe not watch what they're saying. Maybe play some of the games that are a little more, adult oriented. And then Thursday we're back to our normal hours of 10 to 10. And then the long weekend, which starts tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 10 a.m. to midnight every day.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you for hosting. You have a beautiful shop.
The food is good here.
Much
too.
needed. Yeah, food and drinks and coffees and teas.
The Tampa Bay area needed a cafe
Absolutely.
like this.
Yeah.
So that you made it happen.
Yeah,
we wanted to make a nice place that people would feel comfortable, and we think we've succeeded so far. The feedback is
2 thumbs up.
Positive.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
Michael, always a pleasure.
Thank
and
you.
for everyone listening and watching, thank you so much for watching the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about how we game. We'll catch you on the next one.
Night, everybody. Keep gaming.
Night, everyone.
You're listening to the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about how we game.